All right, Getter, start us off.
So I was thinking about the possibility of adding GraphQL to some services that are like Python services.
Okay.
I was curious what would happen because I wouldn't consider it a full API. It's more like a web service that returns JSON and accepts post request.
Okay.
So would this be, it doesn't feel like I have a full-fledged API. So could GraphQL be something I start including?
Well, you said services, so is there more than one Python service, like server?
They are separate, but they're on different ports, so they would not be like within the same website.
Well, one thing you could do is you could stick GraphQL in front of it, and then GraphQL talks to all the Python services, and then you have whoever your clients are for the services, they hit the central GraphQL endpoint, and the GraphQL endpoint fetches from all the Python services.
Now, would that be better than just modifying the Python services so that they listen to the same port and then send requests between themselves?
Are you thinking about having... Are you thinking about putting all of the GraphQL services on a single port? Wouldn't you and then have multiple servers still? Or would you have all your GraphQL services, stick them on a single server?
Right now, there are two services on the same server.
Okay.
That are on different ports, and so they're separate.
Okay, so there's basically just starting up two servers on two different ports.
On the same server, but two servers.
Why do you say they're on the same server if they're on two different ports?
They're on the same computer/server.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. It can be on the same machine but different ports, and there's two servers. Like basically, what I mean is there's two. The thing is listening for HTTP requests on two different ports. Okay, got it.
Whereas I could modify it so that it's only listening on one thread, and then
it feeds to both functions or whatever.
Yeah, because right now I'm not really supporting path like slash home slash.
Yep.
Whereas I could.
No, I would definitely say combine those into a single thing. And then either you have a single REST API that feeds to both of them, or you can make that a single GraphQL Python API, and you can use Graphene for that. And then Graphene would just call the function that needs to be called for each service.
And what would the REST API or the what would that provide?
That you'd want to add it?
Yeah.
Well, first off, you'd be able to have type definitions / like type safety for when you're sending requests and sending back requests. And then I don't know if there's a lot of people that need to know what gets returned from the API and what doesn't. But if you do, it automatically creates documentation for you, so you can use that. They don't have to come ask you what the API returns. And then also, you can, if you have to hit multiple services at once, you can make that into a single request. So I don't know if you ever have the case where you hit both services with two different requests, but you can make that into a single request. So those are like a few things that you'd get if you made it into like a single like GraphQL server.
Now, how far along would you think a project would need to be to add that in? So for example, this is just it accepts a JSON post request one field.
I mean, personally, I like adding GraphQL at the very start of a project, and I don't mind it. I think I like the additions it adds even for small projects. And then I think it scales up really nicely as the complexity of your server there's more and more. I think it like nicely organizes stuff. So even if there's just one field, I think it's fine to start with GraphQL. I mean, you could say that's overkill, but I don't feel like it's a lot of overhead to add GraphQL to a project. Like it's very quick to set up a GraphQL server.
Now, in terms of performance, is it going to slow anything down if the request goes to GraphQL first and then is distributed to...
There's like a tiny bit of an overhead because it's going to be doing type validation, and it also does let's say you return 5 fields from your thing, the client can only ask for 1 field, so GraphQL will trim out the other 4 fields that it doesn't need. So GraphQL has like a tiny bit of overhead, but for most projects, like it's negligible. Like it doesn't matter that it's there, unless something is like the API is very, very, very performance sensitive. Then maybe you could think about it. Or if you're just if you're sending back a huge data set, like if your data is like 1 meg, I mean I don't even know if 1 meg would be too big, but if you have a very large JSON request that you're sending back, then GraphQL has to validate the entire thing. Now there's like escape hatches, because in GraphQL you can basically make a field, what they're called scalars, and then it doesn't do validation on it, or you can choose what kind of validation it does on it. And so in that case you can get around it if you need to. So even if your API does have some of those things where it's a big response, you can get around like the performance hits of it. Personally, I don't think the GraphQL performance is like something you have to really worry about it.
Now, how would it change how a client is using it? So, for example, in this case, if a client is another developer making an HTTP request, how would that change if I add in GraphQL?
Nothing changes as far as like they're still going to send an HTTP request.
And it's still going to be like a JSON payload?
Yep, it's still going to be a JSON payload that they send and JSON payload that they get back. Basically, the only difference is they'll probably want to use like some kind of library to format the GraphQL request for them. But basically, they're going to have to write a GraphQL query or GraphQL mutation, which is basically just a string that specifies what you want the operation to be and what fields you want to get back. So that's what the client would do.
Like a template, I guess, of what you're going to receive back?
Kind of, yep. Basically, you say, I want to call, make sections or something, and then you want to say, I want to receive back the name and the ID. And so you'd say that in what you send, and then the server would send that back as JSON. And then that's pretty much how it works. And then you could basically, in that template or that query or mutation, you can put more than one. If you want to make a section and you want to make a book and you want to make a table, you could send all those into like a single template or a single query, and it would send it all back as JSON. So yeah.
Well, sounds like I should be adding GraphQL to my project.
Yep, that's pretty much GraphQL for you.